Hey movie enthusiasts, it's recap movie club time. Grab your popcorn and settle in as we take you through the twists and turns of this unforgettable. Jonathan Shale, a war veteran and mercenary, after a mishap in Cuba where 3 of his partners are killed. The US authorities deny involvement and the mercenaries are out of work. We are transported to Miami, to an ordinary American school. Mexicans beat up a dark-skinned boy. 2 teachers separate the brawlers and try to calm the heated crowd. Jane knows that the showdown was organized by Lucas, who pretends not to be involved. He threatens the teacher with violence if she doesn't leave him alone. Principal Claude Roll, however, is not going to respond in any way. There was no direct threat and don't care that Lucas is afraid of the other kids. Outside, Jane's car is mobbed by Latinos, led by Lucas. They make dirty jokes and don't let the woman leave the parking lot in peace. In the parking lot, Jane is uneasy. She looks around, and when the elevator doors open, she cries out in surprise. But when she sees her husband Shale, she exhales in relief.
What's going on?
Oh, nothing. My students are trying to kill me. How are you?
The fighter tells his beloved that he's been sent to retirement, and he's not at all happy about it. With nothing to do, Shale gives shurikens to the card. In the evening, a fellow fighter, Joey 6, offers him a job. Need some trained guys. Lawyer Wolfson chooses between 2 companies. One of the mercenaries even brings a videotape of his presentation.
For 20 minutes, really early.
Thank you for sharing.
Wolfson works for one drug lord and he needs a reliable team to secure the goods and take out anyone who interferes with business, even if it's federal agents. But Shale isn't an assassin, he's a soldier. He grabs the old man by the throat, and he shits his pants. Wolfson's lucky Shale's a soldier after all. The thing is, a veteran doesn't want to deal with drugs, he'd rather be out of work. When Jane went for a jog along the waterfront, she was caught by a big Indian and hit in the leg with a stick. He was prevented from striking again by Shale. Despite his training, the veteran couldn't handle the big man and ran away when he heard the police siren. Jane has a broken leg. She is sure that the Indian was sent by Lucas, but asks Shale not to do anything, or he will definitely plant a grenade on him. Jane asks a man to call a teacher to fill in for her at school, but the teacher replies that he's busy for now, so Unemployed Warrior asks his friends to forge his teacher's certificate and enter it into the teacher database. The very next day he went to school under the name James Smith. Pulling on his jacket, Shale looked around to see who he would have to deal with. In the hallway he met Principal Raleigh, who pretended to be concerned about the health of the battered teacher. The classroom is in complete chaos, with students stealing equipment, dancing, or just sleeping. When Shale decided to get acquainted with the kids, an empty beer can immediately flew at him. Students actively sabotage roll call and make vulgar jokes. It's Luca's turn. Now Shale knows what the juvenile thug who sent his girlfriend to the hospital looks like. No one wants to learn history.
Who discovered America? Fat Mama.
Jerome, for example, prefers to read raps about the ghetto. Shale walked into the teacher's lounge and met Sherman. And librarian Anna learned of Jane's broken leg and concluded that KD was best not to be messed with. KD is the Kings of Destruction, a local high school gang. Lucas, their head teacher, definitely had a hand in the teacher's murder. Jane wanted him expelled, but the principal's covering for him for some reason. Roll used to work for the police gang unit. Now he's getting into politics. Shale walks into the principal's office to see who he's going to have to deal with. The men study each other. Roll noticed the teacher's tattoos and the teacher's scars. And Shale noticed the principal's expensive watch. In a dangerous place like this school, he might have his arm chopped off to take it away. But Roll at the cricket bat immediately demonstrated that he was not to be trifled with. Shale came to the firing range and offered his mercenary friends to help him with the school gang. But Holland doesn't like the fact that Shale is doing some bullshit that doesn't bring in the dough. For such rudeness immediately suffered his groin. The rest of us, our hero suggested that we still go after the gang. Most likely, they deal with drugs, so they'll have some serious money. The next day, his men broke into the school disguised as laborers. Shale's not as nice today as he was the first day. He starts talking about Vietnam. And the thrown jar this time returned to the face of the one who threw it. Tay decided to punch the teacher, but the teacher unexpectedly clobbered the teacher and made him lick the floor. Rodriguez initially refused to give Shale back, but quickly changed his mind when the teacher bent his fingers. Rodriguez excused himself to the nurse's station, where he immediately complained about the teacher to the principal. He threatened to drag the administration through the courts. Roll called a security guard for help. Meanwhile, Sheila was talking about how she was destroying the Viet Cong.
Was over there because of Hitler, right? No, dog, that's World War I you talking about.
The students, too, boast scars from bullets and live wounds from street wars. Lucas doesn't like the fact that the teacher has managed to reign in the class. Sheila's boys set up video cameras everywhere. The principal came into the classroom and reminded the teacher that corporal punishment was not allowed, and if Sheila didn't apologize to the students, he would be fired. The prefect reminded him that he could not be fired without 2 weeks' notice.
You go ahead and take your 2 weeks.
Thanks. That's all I wanted.
Roll's running a background check on the unusual teacher, and his phone's already been tapped by mercenaries. Jane managed to get home on crutches. On her desk, she found a card that really touched her. Her student Lisa wished her a speedy recovery. In the schoolyard and in the hallway, everyone stares at the dangerous teacher. Lucas was late for class and Shale made him write "I apologize" 100 times on the board.
Yo, Freddy Krueger, knock it off. It's not a manicure shop.
Shale talks about how he was also a member of a biker gang when he was younger. These are the kind of stories that are not to my liking. But the important thing to remember is that nothing good is going to happen to them there, except for a one-way ticket. He talks about Central Prison, which awaits such citizens as soon as they turn 18. Jerome thinks that it's better that way than to work for a dozen schoolchildren for poverty wages all their lives. These are already children, and here are young people for some reason do not want them to also join gangs. So why don't they then think about their safety and future? The principal came into the classroom and informed Shale that he wanted to talk to him after the meeting. Roll also met with Lucas in the restroom.
Today, after the faculty meeting.
Shale heard them and prepared himself. He put on a bulletproof vest and loaded his gun. The juvenile delinquents are armed as well. Lucas wants to cut the teacher first and then shoot him when he sees the wheelbarrow with the bandits. Shale pretended to be scared and ran back into the building. The principal sent guards to help the thugs. Shale ran into the library and ordered Anna to lie down on the floor. The soldier immediately disarmed the director's men, taking one of them at gunpoint. The woman was ordered to bring out the gun cart and call the police in 15 minutes. Shale wanted to play with his attackers and deal with them in hand-to-hand combat. One thug he threw out the window.
911? I'd like to report an accident. Sorry, my mistake.
2 more guards went flying. The bandit picked up Shale's gun and shot him. The man played dead. Anna was supposed to be next, but the veteran twisted shooter and threw him out the window as well. That's how Shale warmed up. And for some reason, the principal doesn't want to talk to him anymore. Sherman came to check on Jane. And then he saw a picture of them together with a man pretending to be a teacher. Shale returned home with food. Jane asked where he worked and then called him Mr. Smith and stuck rice in his face. Meanwhile, Joy got on Lucas's tail. The gangsters trade wheelbarrows outside the grocery store. Shale tells her sweetheart about the principal's involvement with the street gang. He also confesses that he's become partial to the students, and they listen to him. The mercenaries continue to keep surveillance on the gang. They called Shale here as well. He recognized the Indian who attacked Jane. A boat has arrived at the dock and the goods have been exchanged for money. Joey will take the boat and Shale will take the Indians. He pointed a gun at the bandits and ordered them to lie on the ground. Suddenly Holland ran up, took the gun away from Shale, and let the big man punch the veteran in the face. But he was in better shape today, and he kicked the Indian's ass. It was Holland's idea of fun. He finally shot the Indian and gave Shale the gun. He took the bag of drugs and threw it into the sea. He only let his friends take the money. Roll learned of the deal going south from the news. His supplier, Johnny Clates, called him and threatened that if he didn't get the dough or the goods back, he would do to him what he had done to his man. And the poor guy was thrown on the propeller of a catamaran. Arriving at work, Roll lashed out at Lucas, suspecting that he was the one who had set him up. Then Shale announced that some philanthropist had given the school a generous gift: sports equipment, computers, books, musical instruments, and even free pizza. All in all, Shale has found a place to invest the principal's money. Sherman likes what's going on and offers to help Shale fight the school gang. The mercenary tells the teacher about the principal's connection to organized crime, but Sherman refuses to believe that a black brother can't do such a thing. It's all politics, white people sticking it to black people again. Roll also realized what his money was spent on. After class, Glade's men got on Shale's tail. They shot the mercenary's car almost point blank, and it flew at high speed into the trailer. Sherman stayed late at school, checking students' papers. Fox asked him to walk her home, but to go out the front door. They couldn't, so they witnessed a large shipment of goods being unloaded in the school basement. They were spotted. Sherman hid the girl and asked to tell everything to Teacher Smith, and himself distracted the bandits on himself. Desperate, Sherman climbed up the rope. He was thrown down. The poor guy tried to crawl away, but he was finished off by the headmaster himself.
Who died?
You did, sir.
I guess I am a little late.
The principal prematurely announced Shale's death. Sherman, on the other hand, was indeed found dead on school grounds. Shale found out that Attorney Wolfson had wanted to hire him to work specifically with Glades, the principal's supplier. Cornering him, he questioned him at length, and he had to tell him everything he knew about Roll and the delivery of goods to the various schools. Jerome and Lissa arrived at Jane's house to tell her what was going on at the school, but the woman had already been taken hostage by Lucas and his men. The teacher had to be lured here, and Shale, realizing that the matter wasn't clean, he brought shurikens and throwing knives with him. Ringing the doorbell, Shale introduced himself as a different person and covered his face with a box. He shot one of the thugs, but he was tasered and disarmed. Lucas called Glades, and he ordered him to finish off the mercenary, but that's when the landlady knocked on the door. Shale took advantage of the hitch and took down 3 of Lucas' aides. The schoolboy took Jane hostage and was about to kill the teacher, but he was shot by Jerome, who managed to pick up a gun. Fox said that the criminals stacked the goods in the boiler room and killed the teacher Sherman. Shale decided to deal with all the bandits at once. He threw the corpses into a car and left it near Glates's base. The chief was told that they had seen Shale at the school, and he and his friends had already ambushed the building. A group of Wellman's mercenaries arrived at the school with Glades. Almost got shot by a sniper. Another group of mercenaries arrived. There was a firefight. Joey ambushed the teacher's lounge. As he walked in, Wellman shot back in the hallways. Soon a grenade launcher began firing in the schoolyard. Cold planted explosives under the bags of goods and finished off the stunned mercenaries. At the same time, their leader slew Wellman, but he himself fell into Shale's trap and was shot at the school board. Soon Rem, who was covering his friends from the roof, was mortally wounded. Breaking the check off a grenade, he took the enemy gunner with him as well. Holland had Glades in his sights, but coming up behind him, he was shot by the principal. He informed Shale that they were waiting for him. He outsmarted the bandits, but a fight ensued between him and the principal. Shale was wounded by Glaze, and he was shot by Holland at the last moment. Roll escaped, but only to attack the veteran from around the corner. He even managed to intercept the gun, but Shale finished him off with his signature punch. After the massacre, only Joey and the substitute teacher survived. Not much was left of the school. The mercenaries decided it was time for them to change jobs.